What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, our Pathfinder 2nd edition preview content rolls right on. We're going to look at what we can do during downtime. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps out a lot. Before we get underway, a special thanks to the Black Dragon Disciple Bud. This episode was brought to you by him because he bought me Fantasy Grounds Ultimate. My friend, thank you so much. Now I just have to learn to use the thing, but we'll get there. Now, let's dive in. Okay, so before we get to that, we gotta touch on something that was spoiled at PaizoCon. We have a little bit of information right here about the Druid. Contrary to my predictions, animal companions don't require a feat. You get a class ability at first level that gives you either your animal companion or wild shape. A small tidbit about the Ranger is that the Ranger will be better with their animal companions in combat, but now the Druid does not get both. The Druid gets one or the other. In addition, we're looking at some paths for the Druid: Storm, Leaf, Wild, and Animal. We're not quite sure what they do yet. We'll probably learn in the coming weeks, hey, maybe even this Monday. I have to say, I'm a little bummed about the Druid getting what I see as a nerf, but I also get the fact that the full caster doesn't necessarily need a companion and the ability to buff his strength and then cast his really powerful spells instead of using somatic components. He uses as a bear. But as soon as we know more, it'll be right here. And second of all, we have a little bit more information from a guy who played a lottery game at PaizoCon with Logan Bonner at level 3. I could tell you all about it, but you know, he made a YouTube video so we all could see the stuff. And if you'd like to learn more, follow this card right up here to be directed to Mr. Eric Robinson's YouTube channel, where you can hang out with him and his cat and learn a little more about rogues, learn a little more about backgrounds, short bows and long bows, a lot of really cool stuff. But now, let's get down to what we're here for. So in Pathfinder 1st edition, downtime is that thing we did when we weren't out killing things in dungeons. Oftentimes, this means the wizard or the witch or whoever has all the crafting feats is crafting items for the rest of the party, while perhaps the bard makes a paltry amount of gold hanging out in taverns over the course of several weeks or months as you level up and all of your gold gets thrown at the item crafter. And the marshals, well, they kind of just drink and do nothing, or pick bar fights, or play on their cell phones until the wizard has made them all of their magic gear. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, that's getting an overhaul. Quote, "We've mentioned before that we're more clearly defining the 3 modes of play for the Pathfinder playtest. Encounter, Exploration, and Downtime Mode all have a place in the game, and they each play out differently at the table. Downtime Mode is measured in days and gives you a chance to enact your long-term plans. You might craft items, heal up, conduct rituals, retrain some of your character's options to choose other ones, or work at jobs or stage performances to make money. Of course, just like with the other modes of play, these are all things you could do previously in Pathfinder. The difference in the playtest is that we've more clearly defined these tasks in terms of what you can complete. This means if the GM wants to codify how long things take, it's more obvious what the value of a day spent at a task is. Now that wording is pretty important. That wording leaves Rule 0 in place. If you, the GM, want things to go longer or shorter, you still have that power. And now, as we dive into specifically what is codified, we're joined by a couple of peasants. They look so sad. They must not be able to afford adventuring gear for level 1 and be able to go kill things and take their stuff to improve their station in life. Anywho, quote, "Most of downtime activities appear under skills and require skill checks. The ones appearing in the Pathfinder playtest rulebook are craft, create forgery, gather information, practice a trade, stage a performance, subsist on the streets, survive in the wild, and treat disease. All of these require a skill check to determine how successful you are. We also know we'll have some downtime activities that are beyond the scope of the systems in the playtest rulebook. Building a keep or wizard's tower is one of the big ones. While we for sure want you to be able to establish a home base, this requires interconnectedness between other systems and a high level of work by the GM, so for the playtest, we wanted to keep the focus on the more directly player-oriented downtime activities. which does in fact make sense. And again, if you end up playing the playtest for a long time and you reach high level play, I sincerely hope you do, because high level play is super sweet, you can always, wing it as you go as a GM and let your players have what they want. I'm sure these rules will be enough to establish some kind of a baseline. Anywho, first thing we got today is making money. Quote, practicing a trade and staging a performance, use lore skills or the performance skill respectively to make money and potentially draw the attention of employers or patrons. For these activities, the GM determines what type of work or audience you can find and assigns it a level, using the same scale as PC levels. This sets your DC and how much money you can make, with more money coming in based on your proficiency rank. If you're in a small town and you're higher level, you might not find the type of sophisticated work that makes full use of your talents. Story of my life living in small town Missouri. If you're adventuring in the shackles, maybe you can find work as a master of sailing lore that you wouldn't be able to find in, say, the Hold of Belkzen. Well, there are ships that go over the quicksand in the Hold of Belkzen, and I'm sure some of the traders that travel through there, or various orc tribes, would love you to help them out. I digress. Because downtime can include a really large number of days. Performing these activities long term requires roles only for interesting events. You can continue doing the job and earning money at a steady rate until the job is completed or your audience runs out. This means you can cover long periods of downtime quickly and embellish your activity with interesting details, rather than getting bogged down with 30 roles for a month of downtime. And I'm okay with that. I think a lot of character development can happen in downtime, but I don't think it necessarily happens for your bard at every humdrum 4 dudes in the tavern on a Wednesday kind of performance. No, it happens on Friday night. It happens when everybody's coming off a long day in the fields and they want to party, and perhaps they get a little too rowdy, and it's up to your bard and his performance and probably the magic therein to ease things out, smooth things over, or, the exact opposite and turn it to a ballroom blitz. We don't see mechanically how much gold we'll be making, at least so far in the blog. That's definitely something I'm very much interested in, because downtime didn't ever really net you that much gold in Pathfinder, unless of course you were the almighty item crafter. Hey, that's next! Quote, one of the parts of downtime we know will be important to people is crafting items, including magical and alchemical ones. We knew that we didn't want item crafting to be as powerful in the new edition as it was in the first edition, where it was simply too easy to end up with far more powerful characters that had twice as much wealth, and in a way that didn't make a whole lot of sense in the game world. In the playtest, items have levels. You can craft items of your level or lower, and you must be skilled enough at crafting, reflected in your proficiency rank, to craft an item of that quality, trained for standard items, and expert, master, or legendary for higher quality ones. Crafting an item requires you to spend half its price in crafting materials. You might find or acquire these sorts of materials, and most of them you can buy directly with currency if you need to. You have to spend at least 4 days crafting an item of your level, and you can reduce this if your level is higher than the items. Once that time is up, you have 2 options if you succeed at your check. Complete the item right away by supplying the rest of its price in materials, or spend more time on crafting to reduce the price through your superior skill. You can stop crafting at any time and complete the item by providing the remaining amount of its price. If you got a critical success on your skill check, the discount is better. Okay, so that's different for sure. In Pathfinder 1st Edition, it wasn't that hard to craft high-level, super powerful endgame items by, the early middle game with an item crafter that knows what he's doing. Even if you didn't have the requisite spell or your caster level wasn't high enough, that only increased the DC by a little bit, and that little bit was almost always beatable. It's also worth mentioning now that that flat item level means that the wizard can't just grab endgame stuff at early to mid levels. You actually have to attain that level instead of just bumping the DC up by 5, which is totally reasonable, even though I don't like it, but really totally reasonable. On the flip side, in Pathfinder 1st Edition, the total crafting time was 1 day per each 1,000 gold an item cost. So you were there a long time, especially in bigger parties, waiting for the party wizard to churn out everything for everyone, and If the downtime was set at a certain marker where the next event happens at this point, that meant the wizard could only churn out so much. I believe this gives rise to everyone taking leadership for their own personal item crafter. I digress. In 2nd edition, it's kind of both a blessing and a curse. The rebalance is obviously necessary, and although I awe with sadness, I definitely agree with it, and I also really like that it might only take you 4 days to spit out an item. Of course, another big selling point for crafting in 1st edition was that the item cost half the market price. I think this is a fair trade. You spend 4 days to make one item if you pay the full price, or you spend more time at crafting to reduce that price. On the one side of this, it makes classes like the wizard that were the item crafters in Pathfinder a little less good. Now they're probably still really good, but on the other side of that, we already know that even the fighter can craft magic weapons if he wants to now. So it's a bit of a wash. Of course, we also see that we can use our crafting skills for practicing a trade or staging a performance. You use the same rules for practice a trade, but use your crafting mod instead. So hey, if you've got nothing you need to make, or you just want to use that flat table, there it is. And that's all we have for today's blog. What do you guys think about this so far? Are you excited to play something like a bard or a wizard, or maybe even just a common carpenter or blacksmith in Pathfinder 2nd edition and make some money doing some side hustle? Are we thinking about maybe playing a party of commoners using these downtime rules to really test them out? Most importantly, are we still stoked out there for Pathfinder 2nd edition? Because if so, Doomsday Dawn's going live right here on Black Dragon Gaming. 6 lucky subscribers will be taken through the first ever published bit of material for the playtest. Alien monsters coming for your brains and stuff. It's gonna be super great. If you'd like to learn more about that giveaway, follow this card right up here. Again, thank you guys so much for your time. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of your Pathfinder 2nd edition preview content drops this Tuesday.